है ना? हम आपकी तरह गिफ्टेड नहीं है, मेरे पास नहीं है बिजनेस आइडिया, तो मैं क्या जीना छोड़ दूं क्या? मतलब मैं वेला बैठा रहूं क्या घर में? मतलब हद होती है ना आपकी, एक लाइक आपकी हद होती है एक तरह की, टू लुक डाउन अपॉन समवन. वी आर आल्सो पीपल फ्रॉम लोअर मिडिल क्लास बैकग्राउंड, right? I have not spent my childhood in seeing a lot of wealth or seeing a lot of business around me. और हम नहीं है उतने रिस्क एपेटाइट यार हमारे पास जितना आपके में था. आप बहुत अच्छे हो, हम आपको रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, but don't look down upon us. Yes. Right? So this is one thing that I would definitely say, that there is no ignominy, nothing. MBA phobic people से दूर रहो. आपको आपका financial status ऊपर करना है, and that's a perfectly legit reason for doing an MBA.
So, hello everyone, welcome back to another episode where we try to cover hot trending topics related to B schools and grad school, corporate sector, and from the point of view of college students, as well as the industry expert that we have in every of our show. So today we have Neha with us, who's our co-host. Neha is heading global public relations and marketing at a leading MNC in the media sector. She is also a social media influencer, YouTuber, and content creator. She creates content related to media, related to social cause, and a lot of corporate stuff that she has been writing on. She's also a CSR protagonist and has been associated with a lot of NGOs. So welcome, Neha, to the show, and hope we have a great discussion today.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for introducing me. So, dear, to an informal conversation with the leading entrepreneurs and industrialists. 2020 has been an exciting year so far, wherein we have encompassed such performing artists like Donald Trump. We have learned terms like social distancing, COVID-19 happened, and then people got introduced with different terms like quarantine and work from home. And then, of course, the last year, we also saw that Elon Musk accidentally dropped Tesla's stock prices. So here's to setting 2021 on a very positive note. Tonight, we welcome a man, although not giant enough, but nonetheless has made a huge impression in his chosen field. Here's welcoming Saurabh Sengupta. So he's done his graduation from IIT Delhi and eventually moved on to pursue his master's from IIM Indore. So Saurabh holds 15 plus years of experience in the sales field. In the past, he's been the senior VP with Zomato, and currently he's the founder of a notable startup called the Sales Design Institute. He's also been an influencer and a speaker at many career portals, and we have his famous Inside IIM talk show, which became viral overnight. So he's the social media sensation, and it's such a pleasure to have him. So Saurabh, please do tell us how this all started and tell us something more about your present company, that is Sales Design Institute.
Okay, thanks Neha. Thanks Aditya for having me over. See, Sales Design Institute, first of all, I want to absolutely make this clear. Write-up is not an institute. Yeah, there's the word institute in the name. A lot of people troll me saying that, you don't really run an institute. I said, yeah, of course I know that. I don't run an institute. So what had happened was that we had started Sales Design Institute with a very different sort of objective than what we do right now. And what happened is that while we pivoted from being primarily focused on sales education, sales training, we pivoted midway into what we do currently, which is lead generation for B2B companies, and we only do that and nothing else. But unfortunately, we couldn't change the name. The name had stuck on, and we had that was also one of our it was lower in the priority order. So what we do, nothing out of this world, nothing special. We create opportunities, sales opportunities for B2B sales organizations, and help them get a foot inside the door of large sort of potential clientele where they or their sales reps may have been unsuccessful. right? So to get that initial conversation going and then eventually sort of pass it on to their sales team to convert them. So that's what we do. We are not a large organization, you're right. We're a smallish firm and growing very slowly, steadily. We are bootstrapped, and yeah, we sort of roll like that.
That's great. So, recently I heard about a shoelace company, which was a startup. And of course, I've worked in a lot of startups. And I heard about a shoelace company that got broke. So, do you guys know why the company got broke?
No, no, I
Because
don't.
it was not bootstrapped, is it?
Exactly. It was literally
Good one.
Okay.
Yeah, I have been associated with a lot of startups, and it's been experience working and been associated with all of them. It's not easy. The kind of experience and the kind of learning that we get, it's like tremendous. So that's quite a big deal.
Well, so far so good.
Okay, I think, yeah. So, okay, sort of. So this question is about, getting into IIMs and, global MBAs. So last I was going through the Inside IIM video where you were talking about how the IIT IIM tag was not enough for your sales job and how you can, take maximum out of an MBA. So before, taking a step behind, if I want to get into IIMs or global MBAs, how to prepare parallelly with a job, because right now, as we see, a lot of MBAs have work X criteria, and typically people are, juggling between 9 to 5 job and then preparing for either UPSC or MBAs. So here, let's target MBAs. So how can a person, having this kind of a situation, be getting it through IIMs or a global MBA?
Of course, it's tough. I mean, right off the bat, that's what I would say. It's very, very tough as compared to someone who does not have work experience and is probably in the final year of their graduation and preparing for CAT. Obviously, I mean, they have the luxury of time, they have resources, they can chill out. And, there is no pressure of grades in undergrad, any case, right? But as far as working and preparing for MBA is concerned, it obviously requires a lot of self-discipline. More than self-discipline, see what I've seen common amongst people who are, and I'm talking about the sample set I know, people who worked and then done an MBA, is that for most of them, they have not cleared CAT in one attempt. Okay. You'll find this a little bit, a common thread across that they might be in their second or third attempt. The reason for that is that in the first attempt, obviously they did not manage their time well and so couldn't clear. Right?
Yes.
So what happens is that the frustration slowly builds up. I'm not even using another word. I'm just saying plain frustration. The frustration builds up. It's like, you slow boil tea and then it boils more. And then ultimately, when once it comes to a boil, you then put the tea, and then only the tea is made. So dhire dhire ubal aata hai, right? What do you call it? So that is typically what I've seen is, the case that happens with 80 to 90% of people who come with work aids. They mess it up the first time and sort of get it right in the second or third attempt. So why I'm saying this on this show is because whoever's listening, I want to let them know that it's okay and it's normal for you to sort of clear the exam in the second or third attempt. You are doing something brave by doing service to the organization that you are in, whether you like it or not, and at the same time, trying to fulfill your personal ambition. The self-discipline part I touched, the self-discipline then slowly starts coming in as the frustration goes up, because the need to sort of escape your current state, it just it reaches a crescendo where you're like, yeah, this is do or die for me, right?
Correct.
And that's something that when I went to B school, of course, it was long back, but I noticed this as a common thread amongst people. I would say that those people who have slightly more predictable jobs, for example, their timings are predictable, right? They are in a much, they're in a better situation. And which is why I give one of the things that you'll see is a lot of people from IT companies clearing CAT. And why is that?
Correct.
Because IT companies, the jobs are not so stressful. I mean, at least not in the traditional IT companies.
Yes, yes,
Right?
agree.
Uh, I'm talking about the majority, of course. There are always cases. So you'd see that happening a lot. Yeah, and that just goes to show you that the value of excess time that you get. I mean, if you're already in a stressful role somewhere. For example, in my case, I was in a sales role, but it was a very long cycle sales, right? So it was not like that. I was spending 12 or 14 hours a day. I was spending about 8 to 10 hours. So that gave me a window of 3 to 4 hours to take enough practice tests.
All right.
I hope I sort of answered your question.
Yes, and it was very soothing also to listen, because I also cleared it in my third attempt. So I faced a similar situation. First attempt was like even more horrible, when it was just straight out in the final year. And then I sort of gave up on CAT. I was like, okay, in the first 2 years, I'll not even prepare for it. And then second, third, same situation that you are telling, I think I am able to relate personally. So this definitely helps. And even in IIMs, how we see people, coming from IT background, and the number of influx, the share of IT people is pretty high compared to a non-IT. So relatable, yeah.
I mean, let's make this normal. I mean, if someone's already
Yeah.
thinking about this and playing on their mind, I just want to normalize it and say that this is the new normal. I mean, it's absolutely okay.
True. Yeah. Okay, Neha, over to you.
Yeah. Plus, with the work from home shift that we have, I think we have a lot of time, because a lot of people are, saving on the travel time. And plus, we don't have different engagements to be occupied with. Everything is just happening work from home. So all the more time to prepare for CATs and such competitive exams. Because I recently cracked a CAT, because I always wanted to get into an IIM and pursue my MBA. So my CAT results are out, and they are like quite good enough. I mean, they are really good, so that I can get into a very good B school. So
Wonderful.
Let's see.
Congratulations.
yeah, so thank you so much. So it was possible because we all were working from home, and obviously, especially in a place like Bangalore, wherein half of your time is being occupied in traveling and in traffic. So these things do add in and help us to pursue our careers. Also,
Absolutely.
what I wanted to understand is that when I just passed out when I was a teenager, I had this situation and a dilemma that while pursuing MBA, which are the streams or which are the electives that we can choose from. I'm sure a lot of youths would want to know from you that which is the best possible way to go ahead with this.
Okay. See, of course, if you're talking about, I assume you're talking about the process of making the decision, because the choices are
Yes.
going to be different, right?
That's right.
I would like to
Yeah.
add, Saurabh, here, like electives in terms of different career types. So maybe consulting or product management or marketing.
Right. Let me explain this to you with the help of an example, and I'll pick an example of a very typical profile, which is an engineer coming to do an MBA, because that's what makes up 90% of B school.
Especially in
Yeah.
India, because I was like literally forced to pursue computers in my graduation, although I didn't have much call on that, because my parents were pursuing it because of the neighbors, because हमारा neighbor engineer hai. So even our so I was just pushed into doing engineering for graduation.
Yeah.
But masters is something which we have a free will on, so probably we could
Yes.
something better on that.
Yes. Oh, like I said in my talk, right? सब गलती करके आ रहे होते हैं. So I've mentioned that on my
Yes.
inside I am talk. So लोग गलती करके आ रहे होते हैं, and this typical profile of an engineer who's come with or without work-ex to do an MBA typically comes in, and based on his or her interest, I've seen them usually breaking out into two categories. One category is this finance crazy category. Okay. The day they enter, they will shout out finance. They want to, suck up everything that is related to finance with the objective, I assume, of getting placed at an investment bank. I mean,
Yeah.
needless to say that placement is the objective, right? After
Hmm.
whatever end of the term. The other is, I would just broadly put it into the non-finance category.
Hmm.
And non-finance category is a majority, they're comprising of people who want to go into marketing.
Correct.
Right? So this finance and non-finance category, it is stark in a B school, right? I'm sure you would have seen that. Now, obviously when you go inside, the objective is, I mean, you have your own favorites. I want to be in
Yeah.
finance, non-finance, but it changes. It changes after semester one. It will change after semester two, semester three. By the end of the first year, a lot of the finance folks
Hmm.
would have come into this bracket, and very some of these folks would have come in the finance bracket. Usually, the exodus is usually from finance to non-finance. Yeah,
Non-finance. Correct.
non-finance,
After
right?
first semester, people get so like when they're exposed to corporate finance and financial accounting, then half of their tempo. And then when cold calling happens, then they get to realize that, oh shit, that's not what I should be pursuing. It's still
Yeah,
right time
absolutely.
to change. So yeah.
Absolutely. And it's the struggle starts with simple accounting, and the moment it starts getting into corporate finance, etc., and things start getting more complicated, number driven. Also, I think a lot of people find it difficult to visualize finance.
Yeah.
Marketing can be visualized because most people are consumers themselves,
Hmm.
right? So they find it easy to visualize it in their head. But the moment you talk about finance, it's very difficult for them to realize what are the sort of variables and moving things because they've rarely been on that part of the organization, right?
Correct.
Uh, so, so obviously, if somebody is serious about specializing and selecting, having electives, then this is a very basic split, right? If you're going to pursue finance, then definitely all the electives that are there related to finance, not even one should be left out. Right?
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
a
True.
huge, yeah, it's a huge world out there. Finance is a it's a very exciting topic, by the way. I mean, I'm not a
Hmm.
specialist in finance, but I like it.
Yeah.
And there's a world out there to explore, right? There are a lot of innovation that has happened in the financial world, and so on
Hmm.
and so forth, and it's related to money at the end of the day. The dilemma happens that when you start coming into the non-finance side, right?
Hmm.
Because here suddenly there are more number of choices. There is marketing, but everybody is not going to become the brand manager at Coca-Cola, right? Everyone's not going to be making above the line material,
Yeah.
or everybody's not going to be ads, right? It's not, and marketing is not just about creativity. I mean, that's just part of it. Copy is
Yeah.
just a part of it.
Correct.
But that is what most people get inside thinking about as marketing. That I get to write copy, I get to make ads, etc. Suddenly, when they start going in, they realize, oh my God, there's much more to this than meets the eye, and that happens when the case studies start coming in. Now, that is where it starts getting tricky, right?
Hmm.
How many courses in marketing should I pick up? How many courses in operations, IT, blah blah blah, should I pick up? What I've realized is I'll leave all of the other courses on the side, but I believe that anybody who's choosing a non-finance sector needs to definitely start getting into, like, of course, they should not miss out on most of the marketing cases, right? Or marketing electives, but at the same time, should also start, keep a few electives of finance with them and not to miss out on them. Yeah, especially those aspects of finance which are related to the functioning of a company. For example, basics of accounting, cost accounting, right? How do you typically identify what is a profit center, a cost center? These are very basic concepts that will not leave their back even if they're doing marketing.
True.
Yeah. Unfortunately, sales, there aren't any electives. There are very few, just one or two courses available on strategic sales, mostly with case studies of FMCG companies, and those are mostly distribution-led courses, right?
Hmm.
They teach. I mean, they're ideally, I mean, they're directed towards people who will eventually get sort of sucked up by a FMCG or a telecom firm. Yeah.
Okay.
So they learn more about the traditional way of how you market above the line, and then people come to a retail store, and then point of sales you pick up. It's very traditional sort of sales and marketing. But there are rarely courses. I've rarely come across courses in B school, and I don't know about the case, what's the case now, but I don't hear it from people, that there are hardly any courses about digital marketing or digital sales, which
Agree.
is sort of, yeah,
The new
a lot
normal.
of it, yeah, new normal, and a lot of brick and mortar companies are having to do that. So if you find electives that are related to digital marketing, digital sales, pick them up without thinking who the faculty is. Even if the faculty is crap, it doesn't matter. You still have to be
Yes.
exposed towards that, right? All the other electives, I would say, apart from this, are really sort of salt and pepper on the side.
Okay.
But again, that's my own perspective. I have also met people who are excited about supply chain. I do not know how somebody can be so excited about about supply chain. It beats me, but I have met such people.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's another trend that people. So there are two trends. First is as you said about the professor. So people are like, okay, if this is the most popular professor and if he teaches good, no matter what is the subject, everybody will be crowding for that elective. That is first. And second is a lot of people, they take a mix of all the subjects. So let's say if somebody wants to, let's say, get into consulting, for example, they will take marketing, finance, ops, supply chain in equal proportions. So, what do you have to say about these two trends, which is very in schools?
In hindsight, I don't think it's a great idea. The reason is, I mean, if you look at it solely from the point of view of the type of companies that come to hire, right? It's very unlikely that you're going to require. 95% of the cases, the supply chain courses or the IT courses, or the others, like apart from marketing or finance, that they would even help you academically, right? At least the ones in marketing and finance, at least they help you in a small way, that in the company, to sort of be acquainted with the vocabulary at least, right? Unless out of an MBA you are going into a straight away a manufacturing facility or a production role, which is very rare, then I understand. But equally mixing them just so that you don't have to miss out on anything, I don't think that's a nice idea. I think marketing and finance still should make up 60 to 70% of the electives.
All right. Yeah, totally. I think totally makes sense. Okay. So yeah, I think now that we are talking about academics and focusing how to extract the maximum out of MBA, there are certain inevitable things that we will be coming across as part of life in MBAs, be it the kind of circles that you choose, the kind of people you hang out with, be it in terms of friendships or dating. So what do you suggest, like how, in an MBA college versus in a non-MBA college, for example, a UG college, how these friendships and dating are different, and how are their impacts different in what you want to finally achieve, be it in terms of placement? It's a very candid.
Oh.
Yeah, I want your unfiltered opinion, since you have been in both of the table.
No, yeah, of course. This is, and I had touched upon this topic in that YouTube video as well, right? That I've seen people who want to do everything that they have missed out on in their grad, and they want to do it in their MBA, which I think is very, very difficult. Right? I mean, difficult to do it and achieve an excellent outcome out of the B school. And the reason I say this, again, at the cost of repetition of what I said in that video, is that in undergrad, a large number of people, right? I'm not just talking about engineers, I'm talking about non-engineers as well. They've had very mediocre experiences, right? Engineering colleges also mean that you probably not had access to good sports facilities, so people want to come and play. Your friendships you've had there, it's not like you haven't had there. So again, I don't get some of the people who are overtly enthusiastic. Maybe some people who have been introverted by nature, they somehow want to sort of overcompensate for that by coming into B school, because in B school you need communication skills, and if I don't fit in, I'll be in trouble, right? I don't know, some sort of convoluted thinking that I suddenly need to be an extrovert and I need to fit in with the crowd. So that plays out. If you've not dated in engineering college, right? Because your engineering college was located in some outskirts of some city or some remote location, right? Ratios are, in any case, very skewed there. Then suddenly you come to a B school where ratios are much better, right? Now suddenly, some people, they will start becoming enthusiastic about dating. Okay. The problem is that all of this socializing, all of this sports, all of the extracurriculars, by the way, the debating, the quizzing, I don't know, suddenly a quizzing club comes from somewhere. Quizzing, etc. I still understand. I mean, it doesn't take too much of time, right? I mean, it's more like a hobby. You can keep doing it, but the others take time. You want to do all of this, and then you want to excel at studies. The problem with this approach is that B school academics ends up taking 25 hours out of 24.
True.
Right? It's a hyper competitive environment inside the B school. If you're not in the top 5 to 10 percentile in your batch, you're unlikely to get shortlisted in the kind of companies that you really want to get to, right? So at the end of the day, you pick and choose what are your priorities. Do you want to excel academically and make sure that you reserve your spot in those companies? Or do you sort of go overboard with every activity under the sun, the way you always wanted to? So I think I would strongly advise against ignoring academics at the cost of all of this. If you're really good at all of this and you can manage it together, great. But I've rarely come across people who are able to do this, right? And as far as your particular point about friendships is concerned, see, friendships in undergrad, again, I've seen people are not very competitive, right? They are generally very, very supportive of each other, and they rejoice at the fact that you got placed somewhere, and they didn't. I mean, they'd still be sort of very happy for you. B school, unfortunately, sort of becomes a little cutthroat, right? Envy, jealousy sort of creeps in very early. The friendships that are there, because they have sort of born out of utility of either working or studying in the same group, right? Most of them tend to remain transactional, right? Having said that, I'm not saying that strong friendships are not forged, right? It's just that I still feel that those friendships are probably not as strong as they were if you've had a decent undergrad, right? In any case, I'm very clear about one fact that friendship is on one side, but when it comes to your academic performance and you're excelling at B school, I think friendships should be set aside and not care too much about it.
Definitely, like really candid insights and very relatable as well. So yeah, I think these things should be inculcated because not just acads, you have your friendship and other social activities that impact what exactly you came to the B school for. So
yeah, in fact, since you said this, let me share another point here. So I'm also a mentor on inside IIM's panel, their council program, and a lot of B school students, either who have cleared CAT or who are in their first semester, they ask me this question that I have spoken to a lot of people around. I don't know who these people are, and they said that you have to focus on your extracurriculars, etc. Academics not that important. I said it's exactly the opposite of what my experience was, right? And by the way, this seems to be a very large, big opinion sort of pouring from either alumni or I don't know, they're speaking to the wrong people. But personally, I felt that leaving, if you ignore your academics, then you're leaving too much to luck.
Okay. Correct. Got it. All right. I think that's really important. So we will. I think that this will help. This insight Otherwise you will be giving it to luck, and then again things will not be in your control, and that will reflect in your placements and your other dreams that you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll just reiterate again for the viewers who've just logged in now that so Saurabh has been an IIT and an IIM pass out. So Saurabh, would you want to share with the viewers that what are the biggest areas of improvement of the Indian MBA market that people can have or achieve, especially when it comes to IIMs? So what are the markets that we can improvise upon and lead to a greater result?
Okay, so let me understand your question. Are you asking me what B schools can improve?
Right, that's right.
Okay. Okay, see, uh, let me answer it this way. Uh, I've seen two categories of B schools emerge in India, right? One is the ISP category, who are taking in a lot of experienced people and doing a 1-year MBA, and then they're moving on for placement. And then there are the others who are not taking who are not taking admitting in experienced people. Majority of them end up remaining freshers, or people with 1 or 2 years experience. 1.5 2 years is an average work experience there. And I personally believe, I mean, if you look at the history of B schools, the way it came up in the US, and from where we took it, it was actually meant for people with a large amount of work ex coming inside, trying to understand business a little bit more in depth, with a sort of academicians who had done some research, right, and were able to provide them insight. So they can sort of amalgamate them together, and when they go back, they obviously would be wiser. Unfortunately, when these things sort of got transplanted to India, right, it didn't get transplanted in the same manner, and we have very strong reasons for that. See, the education scenario in India is that the undergrad courses are completely disconnected with the kind of industries that have emerged in the last 10 to 15 years, right? To a large extent, there, I mean, engineers are overflowing. We don't need that many engineers, right? And neither do we need that many commerce and arts graduates, right? Now, because of this gap, MBA suddenly became the new undergrad, right?
Yeah.
And this is what a lot of MBA phobic people, like, I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I find a lot of people having MBA phobia. And what they don't understand is, and it'll take some time because these are early days, it'll take them some time to understand that MBAs are not being chosen because suddenly they are exceptionally bright or something like that. No, they are being selected at a lot of places. They are being given preference because most of the people on the recruiter side know that there is there's disjointedness between the undergrad and what are the kind of let alone the skills, even the vocabulary that's needed in a business, right?
Yeah.
Imagine I learned economics properly for the first time when I was 26 years of age, right? And I had been working since I was 21. So ideally, I should have learned a bit of economics before entering any industry for that matter. I mean, you get what I'm trying to say. So the
Yes.
disconnect here, coming back to your question, is that B schools, right? Um, they need to know what their role is in India. Aping European B schools or aping American B schools in their course content, etc., they will slowly realize, I think, that it is becoming redundant, and this will uh, they will come to know this the hard way when the kind of companies that they want stop coming to campus, right? That's when they will start realizing. Um, the courses in current B schools, so they have the mantle upon them to sort of customize it a little bit for the kind of companies that are coming. So, for example, if there are 30% consulting firms, 30% FMCG, another 30% finance companies, right? The courses then and the weightage of the courses need to be sort of um, designed accordingly, and also the course content, right? I still feel that the course content is not ideally suited to what happens in the industry, especially in the marketing side, and the other subjects. In finance side, it's still, I mean, those are basics. I mean, you need to obviously understand. So the course content needs to be there. Second is um, visiting faculty. They need to attract more visiting faculty. Right? I see hardly 5% of the courses being taken by visiting faculty, probably because they have already or have professors and they don't want to sort of step on their foot. But I do feel that it's extremely important for them to invite more and more visiting faculty, right? And the third thing is what I see completely missing, right? Completely missing. At least I'm talking about like 3 to 4 years ago. I don't know what's the scenario now, is a joint academic work by industry and academicians in B school, right? That part is completely missing. So these are the three areas which I think can be developed upon and worked upon in Indian B schools.
Correct.
That's quite
Yeah.
yeah. So that's quite insightful, Saurabh. I think I would agree 100% with the fact that the syllabus, the different modes of teaching, they should be, refurnished, and, they should be revamped, because the syllabus that even I had while I was pursuing my graduation was quite outdated, and there was no sense of, experiential factor to it, as compared to when we see the B schools that are there in the foreign countries. The students are provided with a lot of experiential factor, wherein they've been taken to trainings, and they get the real exposure of the working environment. I think that is something which is missing here in India, and probably this could improve, and this could be revamped for the betterment of the youth and everybody who's like enrolling themselves into these schools.
Absolutely.
And I also have one question on, so what are your views? So this placement committee or the placements, they have very different views and very different perceptions from across the alums. So what is your say on that? And I wanted to understand, because some people say, they're not transparent, and I don't know, like different comments we get from alumni. So what is your take on that? And is there any area of improvement, or, just sort of comments?
See, transparency from a placement committee. I mean, again, see, I do understand their dilemma, because they hold a lot of sensitive information about placements. So to that extent, I do empathize with them. They are constantly pitching to companies. Their work is not easy. I've seen friends in placement committees, chasing companies for months together to get them to agree to come on campus. Yeah. As far as transparency around selection criteria are concerned, I don't think they can possibly be transparent around that, simply because rarely do I see any company divulge what their criteria is, right? And I don't think it makes sense for them to even do that, because they're not union leaders, right? I mean, they are just they are actually sort of the marketing or the sales front of the B school, who trying to sell the brand to corporates, and the corporates are coming in. Yeah. So I empathize with them. Now, obviously, you see, people you also have to understand here that placement committees also takes all the brickbats, right, from the people who are not happy with the kind of companies who are coming in, right? So they have a very difficult sort of role to play, and they are students, and they are people amongst us, right? So they need, I mean, obviously, a certain amount of slack needs to be cut to them. One thing that I do believe that the placement committee can do is, and I'm sure it must be happening in some B schools, is to have constant communication with the entire batch. One thing that I did see was lacking was, at least in my time, I've heard it from a lot of people lately as well, is the placement committee not having forums regularly. So once in a fortnight or once in a month, apprising people. I mean, you can just make 5 slides and tell them what the scenario is. For example, A very simple thing to sort of inspire trust with the rest of the batch would be to open up your funnel and say that, look, we approached 500 companies across these sectors, like break down the data, and then tell them how many agreed and went to which stage and how many dropped off midway. At least that way, the batch starts trusting that, okay, these guys made a crazy effort, right?
Correct.
It's like a sales rep trying to open their sales funnel in front of the sales head, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't know how much input has gone in, how will I know how much output, or
Yes.
outcomes we can get?
Correct.
So
Correct.
that would be my suggestion to placement committees.
Got it. Got it. Okay, sort of next question is on the biggest myths that got broken after MBA. So, after MBA, the kind of job profiles that you are serving in, or managing the bosses, or the term that is coined by you, IIT IIM phobia. So, so can you tell us, some of the myths that, got broken and giving us a flavor of these things?
Okay, myths that got broken. Interesting. See, one of the biggest myths, okay, and this is by far the biggest one by a margin, is that somewhere a large number of people in B school uh, believing, and I don't know where this belief comes from, it probably comes from the name of the brand, the name of the course, the kind of courses they're taught, is that the moment you graduate from B school, you will land up with the role of a manager. Okay. It's
Hmm.
when I say manager, like a classic manager, right? You'll have 2 to 3 people reporting into them, or at least 5 people reporting into them. This is the myth number one. Myth number two is that they are going to land up a strategic role. Okay. And I want to talk about these two because these two, like, I don't
Yeah,
know
that
whether
is.
you've noticed this or not.
Yes, yes, it is there. Totally. It's totally there at the B school
Okay.
campus. Hmm.
Uh, so about becoming a manager,
Hmm.
see, again, like I said, B school scenario in US is different. There are people who are already like C-level executives who come and do their MBAs there. So obviously they are going to become managers at large corporations, right, directly, because they carry that kind of clout and ability with them. Transport that to India. Most of the people are going to work for the first time, right? And the others have a couple of years of work experience, and that too as individual contributors, right? Very few people, like a very minuscule number of people you will see who have actually led teams before. Any company who's going to hire them is unlikely, despite the degree, right, is unlikely to, put them in charge of people on day one, unless you are working at a manufacturing facility and, there are blue collar workforce reporting into you. That's a different scenario. I'm talking about on a proper corporate office floor, right?
Hmm.
And I believe my biggest message to people who are either going to pursue MBA or are in their MBA right now is to have lower expectations on that front, right? Even after graduating from a B school, one has to spend considerable amount of time as an individual contributor. And I've seen this across industries. The only exception I've seen is if you straight up and join a startup after B school.
Yeah.
That's a different scenario because in startups, it's a small outfit, right? So you could be given roles, and in startups, it's very normal to do roles way beyond your sort of ability, right?
True.
So startups, completely different
Hmm.
domain. Um, so that's number one. The second myth was about strategic roles, right? Again, even though we are taught a lot of strategic marketing, strategic finance, strategic ops, strategic and general strategic courses, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But those are any case roles which sort of come after easily 10 to 15 years after you've worked in an industry successfully. When you are in the C level, one amongst the C level executives, where you're actually taking, uh, uh, decisions which alter the direction of the company, right? Very, very strategic. I mean, strategic to the extent of, market entry of different products. Which product should we take out of our portfolio? Should we add something? Major pricing related decisions, etc., etc. It definitely does not happen in the first 2 to 3 years of one's career. You're doing mainly execution roles, which means that the blueprint has been laid out by someone, and within that blueprint, you have to generate success. If you have been given a target of, let's say, selling X number of SKUs, you have to operate within that framework and get that done. That's an execution role. Of course, there is decision making involved at small places everywhere, but per se, it is not the classical definition of a strategic role, right? These two myths, see, because I'm sharing this, and I'm glad you asked this question, because this, if somebody hears this, it will reduce their level of disappointment in the first 2 to 3 years or even 5 years of their career. They'll hopefully have lower expectations, and I'm sure, and I wish them well, that they graduate very quickly to strategic roles, but it's unlikely to happen in the first half of their sort of decade after the preschool.
Correct. The value of experience is irreplaceable. So you have to go in the field, get your hands dirty, even if you are from any B school of the world.
Aditya, I will just replace the word experience with performance. See, any company worth their salt would want to see जिसको बोलते हैं ना proof of the pudding. I mean, great, you have an MBA, great, awesome, right? We picked you, we trust our choice. But the point is, अब आप यहाँ पे आए हो, now let the rubber hit the road और करके दिखाओ, देखे मतलब कितना पानी है, है ना?
Yes.
So after that, it also inspires confidence in the leadership team, and then you sort of start getting more responsibility. But it does not happen right off the bat, and wherever it happens, those are sort of the minority of the cases.
Got it.
Yeah, I remember. So my first job was as an intern in Mumbai, and I was a graduate. I had done my masters as well, and I was hoping that I will be handling a lot of responsibilities and different teams. Although I didn't know that I'm going to spearhead any team, but I didn't have much expectations as such. But in my school, people were being told that you're gonna handle a great deal of team members, and it's gonna be immense, and the experience is going to be tremendous. So when I joined as an intern, the first few months I was just responsible for doing some paperwork, collecting coffee, or making Xerox, or just doing the data entry things. So probably my manager, I think the managers deliberately put you into such a role to understand where your roots are from, or probably what are the kind of things that you can handle, the amount of patience that you have. So all the people who are listening this right now, I would just suggest that hang in there and have patience and give yourself some time, so that even you understand how things happen, and eventually through the passage of time things will unfold. And right now I am managing a global mandate. I am managing,
I think the internet got broke.
Things do unfold. You just got to give yourself some time, and everything just happens with patience. So that would be something that people can learn from and understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, Saurabh, what we wanted to understand from you is that you are the guru in the sales sector. So can you deep dive into the career in sales, and what are the challenges in sales that probably people are facing, especially when COVID has hit the entire universe and we are living in such an epidemic? Like right now, it's still better, but we were living in unprecedented times when COVID had hit, and how things eventually changed. And could you also speak about what remote selling is, and how did you overcome these challenges during COVID-19?
Sure. So the first part of your question, right? Challenges faced by salespeople during COVID, right? That's your question. See, I'll tell you the most bothered people, salespeople, in the COVID were the category of people who are sort of extremely charismatic and extroverted, right? Who typically rely on their personal charisma to sell, right? And I'm especially talking about people who do face-to-face selling, right, in person. Ab hua kya in the COVID, in COVID times, you suddenly are not getting meetings, and very few people are ready to even come on a Zoom call. So you are left with your phone. Now on the phone, the phone is a great leveler. It doesn't care about your charisma because the other person is not able to see you. So now they are unable to work their charm on the customer, right? So those people really struggled, right? Earlier they would go sit on, in front of the customer and make small talk with them and try to impress them, sir, wah, 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 and all that kind of small talk, right? You can imagine. Suddenly that goes out of the picture because suddenly when you are now on a call and you're asking for an appointment or even having the first call, the person on the other side has less patience because they're on the phone and they're thinking, come on, brother, please get to the point quickly. And these people, that is not their biggest strength, getting to the point quickly, right? So what happened is suddenly people who were not so charismatic, who stuck to the point, started emerging as winners, right? Because they could pick up a phone and get to the point like that. And so sales became sort of transactions, conversations became quicker. And I guess, and I'm just guessing, hazarding a guess here, that people who were sort of the charismatic sellers who relied on their personality for selling also sort of mellowed down a little bit during COVID times and have started relying more on conversations, on words, on getting to the point quickly, right? On having crisp conversations, to sort of further the deal.
Correct.
You know what I mean, right?
Yes.
So this is by far the biggest thing that I've seen that has happened. The second thing that have happened is everybody, not just salespeople, but yes, because it has hit everybody, salespeople have also had to adopt technology and become its friend, right? When I say adopt technology, they have become more comfortable with explaining stuff over Zoom call, right? They've become more comfortable with giving demos over Zoom call. They've become more comfortable in having crisp conversations over the phone. And in general, also internally, more people have started, filling up their CRM, which they never used to do earlier.
Yeah.
Right. This is a constant complaint from sales leadership that people don't fill up their CRM. So they've had to do it because there is no other way. If you don't track your data, there's no other way for a person to analyze the inputs or the efforts that have gone in. So I think these two are the major things. Another thing that has happened, this is from the customer side, from the buying side, is that customers have also become more open to accepting remote ways of selling because even they don't want to come close to. I mean, nobody wants to meet. I mean, nobody can meet. Right now, people are reluctant to meet still, and they themselves propose. They're saying, "Yeah, okay, why don't you send me a Zoom invite, or why don't we have a call sometime and we'll figure this out, right?" And so somehow they are able to, the buyer and the seller both are able to figure this out together, and I think that is a more friction-free sort of sales world. Earlier, I think sales world was full of friction, but I think with technology having come in, it's become slightly more friction. I mean, it's become a little less frictional, I would say.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And the second part of your question was what? Can you remind me?
So I asked about remote selling. So what are the different techniques that people use for remote selling?
Okay. See, remote selling, I mean, if I have to really dumb it down, is really about knowing how to operate your WhatsApp or nowadays, whatever Signal or Telegram or whatever other app that you might be using, combined with SMS calling and a teleconference like Zoom, right? These are the only 4 tools that you have available mostly, right? Along with that email, of course. So what's happened now in remote selling, I think a lot of people weren't aware of the typical, how should I put it, of the typical templates that you follow to chase up people or to chase up leads using these four, right? They would either be overtly relying on phone calls, right? Now what has happened is people have become smarter. They first try the phone, then they try the SMS, then they try, WhatsApp, then they will even, drop an email. Not just that, then they will start going to the extent of sharing articles and content, so as to sort of, gently market stuff to you and not be too in the face, right? Then they go one step further and sort of say that, okay, now this direct approach is not working. Let me invite all my leads for a webinar.
Yeah.
तो बहुत आसान है, right? You are also sitting here, you are also doing a webinar. How much coordination did we do, Aditya? Like it was maybe a couple of WhatsApp or emails. That's it.
Yeah, correct.
It's become so convenient to hold webinars that people are saying that sales people have literally become marketeers. They're saying, I will invite all my leads for this nice, webinar with a lot of knowledge, gyan, blah, blah, blah. And there I will sort of catch them and generate their interest and then start a conversation. This, I think, would not have been possible if people were still largely, buyers would still be in the offline mode. Buyers are also sitting at home. They'll be like, "हाँ यार ठीक है, send the invite, रात को कर लेंगे," you know. So this is a major change, and I think salespeople have become smarter. So I think people who realize that these are the only four mediums, not just that, go one step beyond that and start understanding how to use these mediums, not just for a one-to-one conversation, but also to hold webinars, also to share good pieces of content over email, which are sort of clickbaity and which actually have something of value for your potential customers. Which sort of then takes them to the skill of building databases of their own customers, right? These kind of activities, I think salespeople will adopt more and also become smarter at it. For example, one of the biggest changes that I have seen is a large number of salespeople have now started using LinkedIn for having conversations with potential customers. Right, because that is one medium where still a large number of senior executives, they are active, right? I mean, you name the biggest sort of funded companies and CEOs and Anand Mahindras of the world, they are active, even though they may be operating via agency.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are active, right? And there is a very good chance that if you engage with them regularly in their posts, and then sort of send them a message sometime, there is a very high chance of them recognizing, as opposed to in a real world. I mean, if you would be cold calling on SMSing, then there's a minuscule chance, right?
Yeah, yes.
So social selling, so to say, and in my view, social selling is really, of course, in B2C brands, there's also Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, etc. But in the B2B world, it's largely LinkedIn. So I've seen people suddenly saying that, okay, I want to master LinkedIn. And I think that's a great development.
Yeah, like I've been following your LinkedIn and, the kind of posts and the comments that you have been sharing, those are, worth following. And you have also grown like over the year or over 1.5 years. It's a significant exponential jump in terms of the LinkedIn performance. And maybe it got triggered due to COVID also. And even people like even students, B-school students, they have been involved in a lot of content creation and a lot of networking, be it for jobs and, to land in their dream job, they reach out to alumni and they get a lot of learning that way. So LinkedIn is definitely a big value add. Yeah. So Saurabh, this let's talk a bit controversial question, I would say. The scope of MBA in future. So is MBA going to turn into a fad, and how should the MBA evolve itself in the future? I'm asking this question because as COVID happened, a lot of online MBA has moved online, and the experience of MBA that people talk about, that has been missing. Also, if I talk about the relevancy, so we have courses in AI, ML and other non-MBA courses, which are very much going to be in demand. A lot of new jobs will be coming up. So that somehow raises a question whether MBA is going to turn into a fad or not, because in the last 5, 6, 10 years, people have been looking up to MBA, and as you said, it was the next engineering. So everybody was moving into that. So what do you have? What are your predictions for the future? Is it going to turn into a fad? And if not, then how should they evolve themselves?
See, Aditya, when you use the word fad, right? A fad comes and goes, okay? And MBA is not going to go anywhere. So to that extent, in the strictest sense of the word fad, I don't think, it's going to be a fad, right? An MBA has its utility, irrespective. I mean, of course, a large number of people still don't understand it, but it has its utility, and it has its utility in, in many different ways. Second thing is, and again, I'm being very candid over here, and these may not be all the politically correct reasons, but one has to also understand that um, in a large number of companies already in leadership positions, there are executives sitting who have an MBA. They are alumni from some of the most prestigious B schools. Okay. And they tend to have a natural preference for people who have an MBA. Okay. Now, this might be a very bitter pill to swallow for a lot of people, right? Especially the MBA phobic people. पर अब क्या कर सकते हैं? That's the reality, right? And it's not because one of the biggest misconceptions these people have is that it's because they don't like the other people, or the other people don't have so much of ability. No, it's not that at all. The thing is, when you are trying to hire for your organization, you need some kind of a soft or hard signal that the person will be competitive, the person will not back out when we throw a problem at them, and will have the basic vocabulary of what it requires to be in a sort of a T role. A T role means one level of specialization, and in others you have some amount of generalization. Now, one thing that definitely MBAs bring with them is that they are fiercely competitive in nature.
Okay.
Right? On an average, I mean, if you compare them with non-MBAs, or let me correct my statement. An MBA is a sure shot way of knowing that the person has been through a grind and is going to respond to tough problems, in a very competitive way, and is not going to give up on them. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of non-MBAs will take offense to this, but unfortunately, facts don't care about your feelings. Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that this is the sole reason. So what's happening is the droplet is going to become bigger. More and more MBAs will end up in leadership roles, and they are going to keep prefer more MBAs. I mean, this is very natural. I mean, if you go into I've worked in pure engineering organization, by the way. Engineers prefer engineers, and not just engineers, they prefer it from their institutes, right?
Yeah.
CAs prefer CAs, and especially people from their own institutes. I mean, there is no point of playing victim here. I mean, that's just how the world works, right? So instead of crying about lost choices, think about what you can do to get to the organization of your choice, or reverse engineer the answer rather than being stuck on your MBA phobia.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think, like I said, I had answered earlier, right, what B schools need to do differently. I think I still stand by those 3 points. But here's the thing about students who are afraid of doing an MBA, or whatever. It is not a question on your lack of ability. It's simply that there are people who see MBA as a signal for something, and they are going to take safe choices because they're in an organization, right? They have to they are responsible and accountable for every hire they make. So they make choices which are safer for them, and they make choices where they have familiarity. Taking MBAs is also a matter of familiarity, by the way. And if I'm an MBA and I come across another MBA, there's likely that I'm going to choose that person. But then one also must understand the fact that even people sitting in leadership position, there are horses for courses. There are particular roles where they will prefer to have more MBA applicants, and there are certain roles where they will not prefer it, by the way. So drawing sweeping generalizations is also not correct here.
Correct. I think that answers the question. Yeah, thanks. Absolutely agree to that. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way the world works, right? There's no discrimination, I mean, involved here. It's just people making safe choices.
Correct.
Yeah, that's great. So I think it's a wrap. And Saurabh, would you want to have some closing statements? Anything that you would want to say to the youth, to the viewers who are just watching this show?
That we can use as a headline. That we can use as a headline for this video.
You want me to give you clickbait?
Yes.
See, first let me address people who are thinking of doing an MBA for whom the no-go decision is still not done. Okay. And they have a variety of questions around the finance part of it, how much it's going to cost, will we be able to repay it, blah, blah, blah. My first message to such people would be that unless and until you're very clear on why you want to do an MBA, please don't do it. Don't force yourself to go through that experience, because you're going to spend a lot of time and money into it. Right? Some legit reasons for doing MBA could be shifting your vertical. For example, that was my case. I wanted to move out from engineering into other. So I was very clear as to why I was doing it. For some, it is purely about salary package, and which is fine, which is absolutely fine. And I want to lay it threadbare on the table here that people who are, MBA phobic people on social media, what they don't understand is that अगर हम इतने ही bright होते कि हम लोग बिजनेस स्टार्ट कर पाते आपकी तरह ड्रॉप आउट करके या इंजीनियरिंग डिग्री लेके या ग्रेजुएशन डिग्री लेके, तो हम एमबीए नहीं चाहते. हम आपकी तरह इतने, वी आर नॉट एज ब्राइट एज यू आर. सम ऑफ अस हैव रियली स्ट्रगल्ड, कम फ्रॉम लोअर मिडिल क्लास बैकग्राउंड, एंड वी आर not that, we don't have that kind of risk appetite. I mean, if you are born in a lower middle class family, not 90-95% of us don't have that risk appetite. We want to earn good money, and we want to, elevate our, financial status. We want to buy cars for our family, which maybe we are the first person in the family who will buy a car. So what they don't, when they say this without understanding that most people in MBAs come from very lower middle class and middle class background, और हम क्या कुछ गलत कर रहे हैं क्या यहाँ पे आके? It's a platform for us to also come up the financial ladder. तो आप हमारे को इतना बुरा भला क्यों बोलते हो, है ना? हम आपकी तरह गिफ्टेड नहीं है, मेरे पास नहीं है बिजनेस आइडिया, तो मैं क्या जीना छोड़ दूं क्या? मतलब मैं वेला बैठा रहूं क्या घर में? मतलब हद होती है ना आपकी, लाइक आपकी हद होती है एक तरह की, टू लुक डाउन अपॉन समवन. वी आर आल्सो पीपल फ्रॉम लोअर मिडिल क्लास बैकग्राउंड, राइट? आई हैव नॉट स्पेंट my childhood in seeing a lot of wealth or seeing a lot of business around me, और हम नहीं है उतने रिस्क एपेटाइट यार हमारे पास जितना आपके में था. आप बहुत अच्छे हो, हम आपको रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, but don't look down upon us. Yes. Right? So this is one thing that I would definitely say, that there is no ignominy, nothing. MBA phobic people से दूर रहो. आपको आपका financial status ऊपर करना है, and that's a perfectly legit reason for doing an MBA. Right? My second message is for people who are doing MBA or going to B school now, who have already got an admit. Academics is by far the most important consideration for people to shortlist you. मैं तो वर्ड्स भी मीन्स नहीं करूंगा. मेरे को कितना भी आप इधर उधर घुमा के बोल दो कि नहीं ये भी मैटर करता है, वो भी मैटर करता है, बस ठीक है, वो मैंने बहुत देख लिया. आपके व्यूअर्स को मैं सीधा सीधा बोल रहा हूँ, if you are banking on all of those things and not academics to get you shortlisted in your dream companies, I am sorry, you are leaving too much up to luck. Luck आपकी चल गई तो मिल गया, but if you don't want to leave things up to luck, तो please academics में अच्छा कर लेना. राइट? वो कैसे करना है नहीं करना उसका कोई फॉर्मूला नहीं है. उसके लिए आपको टाइम स्पेंड करना पड़ेगा, आपको समझना पड़ेगा, डेप्थ में जाना पड़ेगा, किताबें पढ़नी पड़ेंगी, एग्जाम्स में अच्छे नंबर लाने पड़ेंगे. बट ultimate objective अगर आपकी dream company में shortlist है, then you'll have to go through that, right? So that's for people who are doing their MBA. And my third message for people who have done their MBA and are not happy in their first 2-3 years of career. Those who are happy, उनको तो क्या message दूंगा, उनके लिए तो great, very happy for you, you are doing well. But those who are not happy, either because things didn't turn out the way they had foreseen it during MBA, the job is not that exciting. I had said this earlier in the podcast as well, that there will be these years of individual contribution where you'll not get managerial roles. The roles will seem not, sort of commensurate with the kind of degree you have or the kind of studies you've done during your MBA. So you need to hang in there and really start introspecting that, okay, do I really am I doing this job just for the heck of it कि भाई मेरे EMI payments हैं, education loan pay कर रहे होते हैं, गाड़ी खरीद ली तो car loan दे रहे होते हैं, and all of those kind of liabilities that we have. Am I doing this just for that, or do I have the option of looking for slightly more riskier choices? Because risk reward यहाँ पे भी बहुत अच्छा चलता है. It works well here. So for example, you take slightly riskier options like joining a startup, which I did, by the way, and it paid off very well for me. I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of that journey. Of course, there was less security. There was in the short term less money. There was large amount of uncertainty regarding the role, what am I doing, but you will spend exciting days. It will not be boring. It cannot be boring by definition.
I think that's what you mentioned about the roles. I think that is like 100% to what I could relate. The JD that I had got while joining a startup, I wouldn't want to name the startup here, but that was poles apart from the things that I was responsible for doing it when I was in the role, actually. So I was had another role and I was like, responsible for doing something else. So, it's like haywire, but then you learn a lot. There's a lot of experience.
Absolutely. And you see, let me qualify this by saying that I understand that not everybody might have the circumstances that they can keep skipping, because see, again, like I said, there are people who come from backgrounds where they don't have the luxury to take the risk, which is fine. If you don't have the luxury to take the risk, then start working on more on acceptance of what you have rather than cribbing about it, because the other thing is not an option for you, right? So maybe those people need to go down the spiritual path a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, we have people who actually have followed that.
So, yeah.
IIT, IIM, and then spirituality. So there are a couple of examples.
No, I'm not talking about spirituality as a career, right? I'm not talking about selling spiritual products, right? I fundamentally believe that spirituality itself is a great industry and a very, very big industry. And spirituality related products and services, that is one part of it. But I'm saying being, having acceptance of your situation, because otherwise you're stuck, right? You're cribbing about what you have and you don't have the risk appetite to jump somewhere else. So the better option is to have full acceptance of what you have, right? So spirituality helps in that sense, right? It helps you to accept a lot of the realities around you. And sort of helps you not to play victim all the time. People who have the luxury of taking a risk, or they have the appetite to take a risk, for them I would certainly say give yourself a window of taking risks, because early on in your career you can take those risks. Later on in your career, risk appetite usually on an average tends to go down, right? So early in your career, take as many risks as you can. If you want to switch. What I'm also seeing in the corporate world is that slowly and steadily, recruiters, leadership teams becoming more tolerant towards people who have career breaks or who have shifted a lot of companies. And I think our generation should be absolutely blunt and upfront in telling recruiters that, look, I joined somewhere early on in my career, 2-3 companies. I left because I did not like it. I see a lot of these interview coaching institutes trying to, coach people into giving politically correct answers. I think as a generation, it will really help if we are not politically correct and we are less politically correct in our interviews. I mean, just say things the way they are. I went somewhere, I didn't like it. I was experimenting, because 5 years later, I wanted to find out where my mojo is. What is the place I want to fit in? So I was experimenting early in my careers. I jumped a few ships. There's nothing wrong in that. And say that with conviction to the interviewer. Right? And I'd really, uh, I mean, India cricket मैच जीत जाता है, न्यू इंडिया बोलते हैं, तो उनको कहाँ से कॉन्फिडेंस आया? Because they experimented, right?
Yes.
So I would say be less politically correct in interviews. Give them the absolute, like the reason why you jump ship. Say it to that point, say that point blank and stick to your guns. You'll be surprised how many people are out there who appreciate this forthright attitude and politically incorrect attitude. And if they don't appreciate it, you're any case not going to last there very long.
Correct.
Yeah. So these are the sort of pieces of advice that I have for people.
That was very blunt, unfiltered, and candid. I would say you just gave a demonstration of not being politically correct in the way you have gave those advices. So I'm pretty sure it's being impacted.
And just one last thing, Aditya.
Yeah.
Advice to everybody who is planning to do their MBA. You will see a lot of MBA phobia on social media, right? People looking down upon MBAs, why you are choosing MBAs only, why there is a criteria for IIT, IIM, for B schools, for blah, blah, blah. Don't care about them, ignore them completely, because they are really projecting their own insecurities. And that's not something to be taken seriously, either while you're getting selected or while you're hiring, especially when you're at a leadership role somewhere. It's okay to hire, it's okay to put filters in your applications, right? Because there are horses for courses. For every one application where there is a filter of an MBA or blah, 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 there are 10, 50, 100 other applicants where there are no such filters. So the world is full of opportunities. India is full of opportunities.
Yes. Yeah. Horses for courses, I'll that stuck in my mind. I'll be definitely. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Saurabh. It was quite an exciting opportunity to share this stage, this platform with you. I think we are totally like humbled and honored having you here and sharing such insightful things with us. So viewers, if you just like what you saw, do send your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you like what you just saw, do not forget to hit the like button. Let us know what would you like to see next, and stay awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, Saurabh. Thanks, Aditya.
Thanks. Bye. Take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Aditya.
Thank you.